Welcome to Mystery Haven. I'm your host, Evelyn Harper. Settle in, dear listeners, for a tale of intrigue and deduction in the grand tradition of Agatha Christie. Tonight, we unravel The Sinister Steward of Ebonmere Manor, featuring the inimitable Hercule Poirot. Tell me in the comments where you're listening from as we step into the shadowy halls of 1920s England. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Introduction and Setup. The year is 1926, and autumn has draped the Sussex hills in a mantle of mist. Ebonmere Manor stands as a sentinel of time, its ivy-clad towers piercing the grey sky like the spires of some forgotten cathedral. The estate, nestled in a secluded valley, is a labyrinth of history. Its oak-paneled halls lined with portraits of stern-faced Ashbournes, its windows glinting with the secrets of generations. Tonight, its heavy doors creak open to admit a rare gathering, and with it, the promise of a mystery that will unravel under the meticulous gaze of Hercule Poirot. Poirot, the diminutive Belgian detective with a mustache as precise as his deductions, arrives at Ebonmere Manor in the company of his steadfast friend, Captain Arthur Hastings. The invitation came in the form of a cryptic letter from Sir Reginald Ashbourne, the manor's reclusive master, a man whose wealth is matched only by his obsession with legacy. The letter, written in a trembling hand, hinted at unease, a fear of betrayal among those closest to him. "Monsieur Poirot," it read, "your little grey cells are needed at Ebonmere. I sense a shadow over my house, and I trust none but you to dispel it." For Poirot, such a summons is irresistible. For Hastings, it is an adventure tinged with foreboding. The manor's gravel drive crunches under the wheels of their hired motor car as they approach. Hastings, ever the romantic, marvels at the estate's grandeur. The stone gargoyles perched atop the parapets, the rose gardens wilting under October's chill, the faint glow of gaslights flickering through mullioned windows. "It's like something out of a Gothic novel, Poirot," he remarks, his breath visible in the crisp air. From a high-backed chair, like a monarch on his throne. His hair is silver, his eyes sharp, despite the lines etched into his face, and his voice carries the weight of authority. "Monsieur Poirot," he says, rising stiffly, "your reputation precedes you. I am grateful you have come." His gaze sweeps the room, lingering on each guest with a mix of suspicion and resignation. The assembled company is a study in contrasts, each figure a thread in the tapestry of Ebonmere's drama. Dinner is a tense affair, served in a dining hall where candlelight dances on crystal and silver. Sir Reginald announces his purpose, to revise his will, a decision that sends a ripple of unease through the room. "My legacy must be protected," he declares, his voice firm but brittle. "There are those who would squander it." His eyes linger on Lillian, who flushes, and Henry, who pales. The Ebonmere sapphire, a gem of unearthly blue displayed in a locked glass case at the table's center, seems to pulse with malice. Rumors of its curse, a trail of misfortune for its owners, hang in the air, though Poirot dismisses such talk with a wave of his hand. "Superstition," he murmurs to Hastings, "is the enemy of reason." Conversation turns to the sapphire's history. Margaret, clearing plates, recounts in a hushed tone how it was unearthed in India, its beauty matched by tales of betrayal and death. Lillian scoffs, calling it a gaudy trinket, while Henry jokes about selling it to settle his debts. Dr. Henshaw, however, studies the gem with a clinical eye, as if it holds a secret beyond its sparkle. Edward remains silent, his gaze fixed on the case's lock. Poirot observes every gesture, every glance. He notes Lillian's forced laughter, Henry's nervous tick, Clara's guarded silence, Margaret's whispered prayers, and Edward's subtle flinch when the will is mentioned.
"The human heart, Hastings," he says softly. "It betrays itself in the smallest details." Hastings, distracted by Lillian's charm, nods absently, but Poirot's mind is already at work, cataloguing motives. As dessert is served,
I can no longer afford. With that, he closes the door, the lock clicking with finality. Poirot and Hastings linger in the library, the fire casting long shadows. Hastings, ever optimistic, suggests the gathering is merely a family squabble. Poirot, however, is unconvinced. "Mon ami," he says, tapping his temple. "The little grey cells, they are restless. Something is amiss in this house." He sips his tisane, his eyes scanning the room's bookshelves, as if the answer lies within their leather-bound tomes. Outside, the fog thickens, swallowing the manor in a ghostly embrace. The wind howls, rattling the windows, and somewhere in the distance, a dog barks. Hastings shivers, blaming the chill, but Poirot's expression is one of quiet certainty. "The stage is set, Hastings," he murmurs. "The curtain rises on a tragedy." Chapter 2. The Crime Discovered. The night at Ebonmere Manor has grown heavy, the fog pressing against the windows like a living thing. The clock in the grand hall chimes midnight, its sombre toll echoing through the corridors. Hercule Poirot and Captain Arthur Hastings linger in the library, the fire's glow casting flickering shadows across shelves laden with dusty tomes. Hastings, sipping a brandy, muses about the evening's tensions, but Poirot's sharp eyes are elsewhere, tracing the room's contours as if they hold the key to Sir Reginald's unease. "Mon ami," Poirot says, his voice low and deliberate. "In a house such as this, the walls themselves whisper secrets. We must listen." Their quiet reverie is shattered by a piercing scream, high and frantic, slicing through the manor like a blade. Hastings spills his brandy, his face paling. "Good Lord, Poirot, what was that?" Poirot is already on his feet, his movements precise, his expression alert. "Vite, Hastings, the drama, it begins." They hurry toward the source, their footsteps muffled by the thick Persian rugs, the manor's labyrinthine halls guiding them towards the west wing. The scream came from the direction of Sir Reginald's study, a fortress of oak and iron at the heart of Ebonmere. As they round a corner, they find Margaret Poole, the housekeeper, Examines the lock, noting the key's position. Inside, as Margaret said. He turns it with a gloved hand, and the door creaks open, revealing a scene of chilling stillness. Sir Reginald Ashbourne lies slumped over his mahogany desk, his silver hair stark against the dark wood. A dagger, its hilt encrusted with the Ashbourne crest, protrudes from his chest, a crimson stain spreading across his waistcoat. The Ebonmere sapphire, once gleaming in its locked glass case on the desk, is gone, the case's door ajar, its lock unforced. Hastings, his voice tight, murmurs, "Good heavens, Poirot, it's murder!" Poirot's eyes, sharp as a hawk's, sweep the room. "Oui, mon ami, but a murder most curious. Observe the door, locked from within. The window bolted, no sign of struggle, yet the sapphire is vanished." He steps closer, his polished shoes silent on the Aubusson carpet, and examines the scene with methodical precision. The study is a sanctuary of order, its walls lined with bookshelves, a single window overlooking a sheer drop to the gardens below. The bolt on the window is secure, its latch untouched. A crystal decanter of brandy sits on a sideboard, a single glass beside it, tipped over, its contents pooling on the desk. A faint, almond-like scent lingers, hinting at something sinister. A half-written letter lies beneath Sir Reginald's hand, the ink smudged. "I fear for my life," it begins, trailing off into an illegible scrawl. Poirot's mustache twitches. A message, perhaps, or a deception. Hastings, peering over Poirot's shoulder,
points to the empty case. "The sapphire, Poirot. Someone stole it." Poirot nods, his fingers brushing the case's glass. "No fingerprints, Hastings. The thief, he is careful, or wishes us to think so." He examines the dagger, its blade buried deep, the strike precise. "A family heirloom," he notes, "accessible to all in this house. Convenient, no?" The commotion draws the others. Lillian Ashbourne arrives first, her emerald gown disheveled, her face a mask of
Mutters about the sapphire's curse, her rosary clicking like a metronome. Poirot summons Inspector Japp, who arrives from the local constabulary, his mustache bristling with authority. "A locked-room murder, Poirot," Japp declares, scratching his head. "Door locked, window bolted, no way in or out. And that blasted sapphire gone." Poirot, unperturbed, replies, "Impossible, you say?" "No, Inspector. The impossible is merely the possible in disguise." Poirot begins his examination. The room yields no obvious clues, no secret panels, no hidden exits. The fireplace is cold, its ashes undisturbed. The carpet shows no footprints, though a faint smudge of mud near the desk catches Poirot's eye. "Curious," he murmurs, kneeling to inspect it. The brandy glass's almond scent is stronger now, suggesting cyanide, yet the decanter smells clean. "A contradiction, Hastings," Poirot says. "The glass, it is poisoned, but the bottle is not. Why?" Hastings, pacing, ventures, "Perhaps Sir Reginald poisoned himself, then stabbed himself?" Poirot's eyes gleam with amusement. "Mon ami, you propose a most acrobatic suicide. No, this is murder, and the killer is among us." He turns to the suspects, gathered uneasily outside the study. "No one leaves Ebonmere until the truth is known," he declares, his voice soft but unyielding. Each suspect's reaction is telling. Lillian's sobs grow louder, almost performative, and Poirot notes her flushed cheeks, as if she'd been running before her arrival. Henry mumbles about debts, his hands shaking as he lights a cigarette. Clara adjusts her spectacles, her gaze lingering on the dagger. Edward offers to assist, his voice steady but his eyes avoiding Poirot's. Margaret whispers, "The sapphire's curse. It's claimed him." Poirot dismisses her superstition, but notes her trembling hands. Japp seals the study, posting a constable at the door. Poirot, however, lingers, his mind racing. He examines the half-written, wields the truth. Join me next time as Poirot's investigation begins in earnest. This is Evelyn Harper, bidding you good night from Mystery Haven. Chapter 3. Investigation begins. Dawn breaks over Ebonmere Manor, painting the Sussex hills in a pale, ghostly light. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and suspicion. In the grand dining hall, Hercule Poirot gathers the household, his diminutive figure commanding despite the somber mood. Captain Arthur Hastings stands at his side, his notebook open, his pen poised to capture every detail. Inspector Japp, pacing near the fireplace, mutters about the impossibility of the crime, but Poirot's eyes gleam with purpose. "Mes amis," he begins, his voice soft yet piercing, "a murder has been committed under our noses, in a room locked from within. The truth, it hides in the details, and we shall find it." The suspects sit around the polished mahogany table, their faces a gallery of unease. Lillian Ashbourne, her emerald gown replaced by a somber black dress, dabs at her eyes with a lace handkerchief, though Poirot notes the absence of tears. Viscount Henry Langston slouches in his chair, his bloodshot eyes betraying a sleepless night and too much wine. Dr. Clara Henshaw sits erect, her spectacles glinting as she watches Poirot with a clinician's detachment. Margaret Poole, the housekeeper, clutches her rosary, her lips moving in silent prayer. Edward Marlowe, the steward, stands near the door, his posture rigid, his face a mask of calm that cracks when Poirot's gaze lingers on him. Poirot begins with Lillian. Mademoiselle Ashbourne, you were seen near the study at midnight. What brought you there? Lillian's eyes widen, her hand fluttering to her throat. I couldn't sleep, she says, her voice tremulous. I wanted to speak to Father about the will. We argued earlier, but I thought to make amends. She claims she knocked, received no answer, and returned to her room. Poirot notes her hesitation, the way her fingers twist the condition. Did you prescribe anything that night? Clara adjusts her spectacles, her voice cool. I gave him a sedative, as I often did for his insomnia, nothing more. Poirot leans forward. And this sedative, it could not, perhaps, mimic the effects of poison? Clara's lips thin. Cyanide, you mean? No, Monsieur Poirot. My sedatives are harmless. Her defensiveness is subtle, but Poirot's keen ear catches it. Viscount Henry Langston fidgets under Poirot's scrutiny. Monsieur Langston, your debts are no secret. Did you hope to secure the sapphire, or perhaps the inheritance, to settle them? Henry laughs, a brittle sound. Uncle Reginald was stubborn, but I'd never harm him. I was in the billiard room, alone when it happened. His alibi is weak, and Poirot notes his trembling hands, the faint scent of tobacco clinging to his coat. You smoke, monsieur? Turkish cigarettes, I believe. Henry nods, puzzled. Poirot files this away, recalling a faint tobacco scent near the study. Margaret Poole, when questioned, speaks in a whisper. I heard noises, Monsieur Poirot. Strange creaks, like footsteps in the walls. The sapphire's curse. I told Sir Reginald it would bring ruin. Poirot dismisses her superstition with a wave. Madame, the only curse here is human greed. Did you see anyone near the study before you found the body? Margaret hesitates, then shakes her head. No one, sir. But I felt a presence. Her vagueness irritates Japp, but Poirot's expression remains inscrutable. With interviews concluded, Poirot returns to the study, now cordoned by Japp's constable. The room is unchanged. Sir Reginald's body has been removed, but the dagger remains on the desk, its blade cleaned but still ominous. The empty sapphire case glints mockingly, and the spilled brandy glass emits its faint almond-like scent. Poirot kneels, examining the mud smudge again. Hastings, he says, this mud, it is fresh, not from the garden's dry paths. It comes from elsewhere. Hastings, scribbling notes, ventures, a secret passage, perhaps? Perfect. The handwriting too steady for a man in fear. Poirot examines the sapphire case again, noting its lock is intact, no scratches or tampering. The thief knew the combination, he muses, or the case was left open deliberately. He sniffs the brandy glass, confirming the almond scent. Cyanide, perhaps, but the decanter is clean. A clever trick. Hastings, puzzled, asks, so the poison was in the glass alone? Poirot nods. Precisely. The killer? He wishes us to chase shadows. Outside, Japp interrogates the staff, but the maids and footmen saw nothing unusual. Poirot, however, focuses on the suspect's rooms. In Lillian's, he finds a torn theatre program, hinting at a secret lover, but no concrete evidence. Edward's quarters reveal a ledger with discrepancies, missing funds from the manor's accounts.
Embezzlement, perhaps, Poirot wonders aloud. Clara's medical bag contains a vial labelled sedative, but its contents smell faintly chemical, warranting further scrutiny. Henry's room is a mess of cigarette stubs and betting slips, confirming his debts. Margaret's room holds a second key, which she claims is for the attic, but it fits the study's lock perfectly. Poirot gathers everyone in the drawing-room, the air thick with tension. "Mesdames et messieurs," he says, pacing, "each of you has a motive, each of you an opportunity. The locked room is no mystery to the guilty, it is their shield." Lillian gasps, Henry protests, Clara remains silent, Edward stiffens, and Margaret crosses herself. Poirot continues, "The mud, the letter, the sapphire, these are pieces of a puzzle, but the truth, it lies in what is not seen." Hastings whispers, "What's your theory, Poirot?" Poirot smiles faintly. "The theory, mon ami, is forming, but we must test it. The killer, he is clever, but not as clever as Hercule Poirot." He dismisses the group, their faces etched with fear and suspicion, and turns to the window, the fog rolling over the hills. "The game, Hastings, it is afoot."
Chapter 4. Open Door. The brandy glass, with its almond-like scent, sits untouched. Poirot kneels by the mud smudge near the desk, his gloved fingers hovering over it. "This mud," he says to Hastings, "it is not from the gardens. It is clay, wet, from a place less travelled." Hastings, peering over his shoulder, suggests, "The riverbank, perhaps? It's half a mile away." Poirot nods. "Possible, mon ami. But why bring river clay into a locked room?" Poirot's attention shifts to the bookshelves, where he notices a faint scratch on the floor, as if a heavy object was dragged. He presses the panels again, searching for a hidden mechanism, but finds none. "Patience," he murmurs, his eyes scanning the room. A glint under the desk catches his eye, a torn scrap of paper, overlooked in the initial search. He retrieves it, revealing a single word in smudged ink. "Steward." Poirot's mustache twitches. Interesting, no? A clue or a trap? Hastings, excited, exclaims, "It points to Edward Marlowe." Poirot cautions, "Perhaps, Hastings, but the obvious clue is often the false one." He tucks the paper into his pocket, his mind racing. The brandy glass's scent gnaws at him. He sends it to Jap for analysis, suspecting cyanide, though the clean decanter suggests a deliberate misdirection. "The killer plays games," Poirot says. "But Poirot, he plays better." Leaving the study, Poirot and Hastings explore the manor's grounds. In the garden, they find a blood-stained cloth near a rosebush, its crimson stark against the petals. Hastings gasps, "Blood from the murder!" But Poirot examines it, sniffing the stain. "Not blood, mon ami. Red wine, spilled carelessly." A nearby gardener confirms a delivery boy dropped a crate of wine the previous day, explaining the cloth. "A red herring," Poirot declares, "but one that wastes our time." Back inside, Poirot searches the suspect's rooms more thoroughly. In Margaret Poole's quarters, the second payment of £10,000. The note mentions a meeting at Ebonmere days before the murder. Henry, sweating under Poirot's gaze, admits, "I owe money, yes, but I didn't kill Uncle Reginald. Mr. Black is persistent, but I never saw him here." Poirot notes Henry's Turkish cigarettes, their scent matching the faint tobacco trace near the study. "You were near the study, monsieur, no?" Henry stammers, I passed by, but I didn't go in." His weak alibi tightens the noose around him. Lillian Ashburn's room reveals a diary. its pages filled with cryptic entries about a beloved who urged her to secure her inheritance. When Poirot questions her, Lillian blushes, claiming it's a private matter. "A lover, perhaps?" Poirot asks, his tone gentle but probing. Lillian snaps, "That's none of your business!" Her defensiveness suggests a motive beyond greed, perhaps desperation to fund a secret life. Poirot lets her go, but her diary joins his growing list of clues. Edward Marlowe's ledger, found in his Spartan quarters, shows discrepancies. £5,000 unaccounted for in the Manor's accounts. Confronted, Edward claims clerical errors, but his voice betrays a tremor. "I served Sir Reginald faithfully," he insists. Poirot, holding the torn scrap with Steward, asks, "And this, monsieur? A note from the victim, perhaps?" Edward pales, insisting he knows nothing of it. Poirot smiles thinly. "We shall see." A new clue emerges in the library, where Hastings discovers a broken window latch, its frame splintered. "An entry point!" he exclaims. Poirot examines it, only to find the damage is old, caused by a storm weeks prior, as Margaret confirms. Another dead end. Poirot, undeterred, returns to the study's sapphire case, noting its combination lock required no force. "The thief knew the code," he tells Hastings. "Or Sir Reginald left it open, a curious oversight for a cautious man." Poirot gathers the suspects in the drawing room, the air thick with tension. "Mesdames et messieurs," he says, pacing, "the clues multiply, but so do the lies." "Hastings," Poirot reflects. "The red herrings, Hastings, they are many. The blood-stained cloth, the broken latch, even the cyanide vial, they distract from the truth." Hastings, puzzled, asks, "But the scrap of paper, the ledger, those are real clues, aren't they?" Poirot nods. "Oui, but their meaning is unclear. The killer wishes us to chase the obvious." But Poirot, he looks beyond. Outside, the fog begins to lift, revealing Ebonmere's towers in stark relief. Poirot stands at a window, his mind a whirl of connections. "The sapphire's curse," he muses. "It is nonsense. But it serves the killer's purpose. Why?" Hastings suggests, "To scare us off." Poirot smiles. "Or to hide a simpler truth. The locked room, mon ami. It is not the puzzle, but the solution." Chapter 5. Complications and Twists. The third day at Ebonmere Manor dawns with a chill that seeps into the bones. The fog, though thinner, clings to the Sussex hills, mirroring the unease that grips the household. Hercule Poirot, impeccable in his tailored suit, stands in the grand hall, his eyes scanning the ancestral portraits as if they might whisper the killer's name. Captain Arthur Hastings, bleary from another restless night, clutches his notebook, his pen scratching furiously to keep up with Poirot's relentless pace. Inspector Japp, pacing nearby, mutters about the press hounding him for answers, but Poirot's focus is unwavering. "Mon ami," he tells Hastings, his voice low and deliberate. "The truth is like a shadow. It moves when you chase it. We must stand still and observe." This morning brings a shocking discovery. As Poirot and Hastings pass Lillian Ashburn's room, a maid's cry draws them inside. There, hidden in Lillian's luggage, is the Ebonmere sapphire, its blue facets glinting accusingly. Lillian, summoned by the commotion, gasps, her face paling. "I didn't put it there!" she cries, her theatrical poise crumbling. "Someone's framing me!" Poirot examines the gem, noting its pristine condition. Passage behind the study's bookcase. While re-examining the room, he notices the faint draft he felt earlier, stronger now. Pressing a concealed panel, he reveals a narrow corridor, its walls damp with river clay, the same clay as the mud smudge near the desk. The passage leads to the steward's quarters, accessible only through a locked door in Edward's room. Mon Dieu, Poirot breathes. The locked room. It is no longer locked. Hastings, wide-eyed, exclaims, "So the killer used this to enter and escape?" Poirot nods, but his expression is grave. Oui, but this passage, it raises more questions than it answers. Confronted with the passage, Edward's composure cracks. He reveals a bombshell. He is Sir Reginald's illegitimate son, a secret known only to the late patriarch. "He promised me a share of the estate," Edward admits, his voice bitter. "But he changed his mind, said I'd get nothing." Poirot's eyes narrow. "A motive, monsieur? Greed, and perhaps revenge?" Edward denies it, insisting he was loyal, but the passage's existence ties him directly to the crime scene. Another twist emerges when Dr. Clara Henshaw confesses to prescribing Sir Reginald a potent sedative, one that could mimic cyanide's effects in high doses. "I gave him only a small amount," she insists, her hands trembling. "But if someone tampered with it..." Poirot seizes on this, recalling the almond-like scent in the brandy glass. "Madam, your sedative, could it be mistaken for poison?" Clara nods reluctantly, admitting she left her medical bag unattended. The vial labeled cyanide in her room, she claims, was for research. But Poirot suspects it was planted to mislead. Viscount Henry Langston's troubles deepen when Poirot uncovers a connection to Mr. Black, the creditor from the note in his room. A search of the manor's guest logs reveals that Mr. Black is an alias used by Edward Marlowe himself. Confronted, Edward admits to posing as the creditor to pressure Henry into selling family heirlooms, including the sapphire. "It was business," Edward says, his voice cold, "not murder."
Just as the heavy fixture crashes to the floor, its crystals shattering. Hastings gasps, "Good Lord, Poirot, that was meant for you." Poirot, dusting off his coat, remains calm. "A warning, mon ami, from one who fears my little grey cells." The chandelier's rope shows signs of tampering, and Poirot suspects Edward, whose quarters are closest to the attic access. Edward denies it, but his nervous glance betrays him. Poirot uncovers another clue. The half-written letter, "I fear for my life," is a forgery. Comparing it to Sir Reginald's known handwriting, Poirot notes subtle differences, the slant, the pressure of the pen. "This was written by another," he tells Hastings, "to mislead us." The ink matches a pen in Edward's room, tightening the noose. Yet Poirot cautions, "The evidence, it is too perfect. We must look deeper." A final twist comes when Poirot finds Sir Reginald's new will in a hidden safe behind a study painting. It names Edward as the sole heir, cutting out Lillian and Henry entirely. "Mon Dieu," Poirot murmurs, "a motive so clear it blinds us." Was Edward desperate to secure the fortune before Sir Reginald could change it again? Or is the will another plant, designed to frame him? Poirot's mind races, piecing together the contradictions. In the drawing room, Poirot gathers the suspects, the air electric with suspicion. "Mesdames et messieurs," he says, pacing, "the sapphire in Mademoiselle Ashburn's luggage, the hidden passage, the forged letter. These are not accidents. Someone weaves a tapestry of lies. But the threads, they begin to fray." Lillian accuses Edward of planting the gem. Henry accuses Lillian of greed. Clara remains silent, her eyes guarded. Margaret whispers of the curse. Edward's face is a mask, but his hands clench. Poirot raises a hand. "The truth, it is close, but the lies, they are closer." Alone with Hastings,
Poirot reflects. The passage explains the locked room, but not the killer's heart. Edward, he is a semicircle. Their faces a gallery of fear, defiance, and guarded secrets. The Ebonmere sapphire, recovered from Lillian's luggage, rests on a table, its blue facets glinting like an accusation. Poirot begins, his voice soft but unyielding. Mesdames et messieurs, a crime most ingenious has been committed in this house. Sir Reginald Ashburn, stabbed in a locked study, the sapphire stolen, a letter forged, a passage hidden. These are the threads of a tapestry woven by a cunning hand. Tonight, Hercule Poirot will unravel it. The room is silent, save for the crackle of the fire and Margaret's rosary clicking faintly. He starts with the crime's mechanics. The study. It was locked, the window bolted, yet Sir Reginald was killed. How? The hidden passage, discovered behind the bookcase, leads to Monsieur Marlowe's quarters. It is the key to the locked room mystery. Edward shifts uncomfortably, his eyes darting to the door. Poirot continues. The killer entered through the passage, struck with a dagger, and exited, leaving the key in the lock to suggest an impossible crime. Poirot turns to the clues. The mud smudge, clay from the riverbank, matches the passage's damp walls, found only in Monsieur Marlowe's domain. The torn scrap with Steward written in ink from his pen points to him. The sapphire, planted in Mademoiselle Ashburn's luggage, was meant to frame her. Lillian gasps, her hand clutching her throat, while Edward's face hardens. Poirot raises a hand, but these clues, they are too perfect, no? The killer wishes us to see only the obvious. He addresses the brandy glass's almond-like scent. The smell. It suggests cyanide, yet the decanter is clean. Dr. Henshaw's sedative, she admits, could mimic such effects. But why the discrepancy? The glass was tampered with, not to poison, but to mislead. Clara adjusts her spectacles, her expression unreadable. Poirot continues. Passage, for you have cleaned every corner of this manor. And you, madame, helped weave this web. Margaret's eyes widen, her voice a whisper. No, I served the Ashbournes faithfully. Poirot's tone softens, but his words cut deep. We, faithfully, to protect Ebonmere's legacy. You believed Sir Reginald's new will, favoring Edward, would ruin the manor. You aided him, thinking to secure the estate's future. Margaret's tears spill, her confession halting. I only meant to help. Edward said we'd save Ebonmere, that Lillian and Henry would squander it. Poirot reconstructs the crime. Edward, driven by greed and resentment, planned the murder. Knowing the passage from his quarters, he entered the study, stabbed Sir Reginald with the family dagger, a precise strike to ensure instant death, and stole the sapphire. Margaret, complicit, helped stage the scene, planting the sapphire in Lillian's luggage to frame her, forging the letter to suggest fear, and exaggerating the sedative's scent to mimic cyanide. The passage, Poirot explains, allowed Edward to lock the door from within and escape, leaving the key to create the illusion of an impossible crime. He addresses the red herrings. The cyanide vial in Dr. Henshaw's bag, a distraction, placed by Edward to cast suspicion. The blood-stained cloth, the broken latch, these were accidents, exploited to confuse. Even the sapphire's curse, Madame Poole. You whispered of it to mislead. Margaret sobs, while Clara's face tightens, her role as an unwitting pawn clear. Poirot turns to Edward. You, monsieur, used your position, your knowledge, your blood tie to Sir Reginald. You tampered with the chandelier to silence me. But the little grey cells, they are not so easily crushed. Edward's mask falls, his voice breaking. He cast me aside. After all I did for him, I deserved Ebonmere. His confession spills, detailing how he and Margaret planned to secure the estate, believing Lillian and Henry unfit heirs. It spoke louder than words. He gazes at the sapphire now returned to its case. The gem. It is beautiful, but it is only stone. The true curse is within us. As the suspects disperse, Lillian collapses in a chair, her bravado gone. Henry lights a cigarette, his hand steadier now. Clara packs her bag, vowing to leave Ebonmere. The manor feels emptier, its secrets laid bare. Poirot, standing by the window, watches the sun climb higher, its light piercing the last of the fog. "The puzzle is solved, Hastings," he says, "but the heart, it remains a mystery." Chapter 7. Justice Served. The 5th day at Ebonmere Manor breaks with a crisp clarity, the Sussex hills bathed in a golden light that belies the darkness of the past days. The manor, once a fortress of secrets, feels lighter, as if exhaling a long-held breath. In the grand drawing-room, Hercule Poirot stands before the remaining occupants, Lillian Ashbourne, Viscount Henry Langston, and Dr. Clara Henshaw, their faces etched with a mix of relief and lingering shock. Captain Arthur Hastings, ever faithful, stands at Poirot's side, his notebook closed, his role now that of witness to the resolution. Inspector Japp, his mustache bristling with satisfaction, oversees the scene, his constables stationed outside with Edward Marlowe and Margaret Poole in custody. Poirot, his suit impeccable, his mustache a perfect curve, addresses the group with a quiet authority. "Mesdames et messieurs," he begins, his voice warm yet firm, "the truth has been revealed, the guilty unmasked. Edward Marlowe, driven by greed and resentment, and Margaret Poole, bound by a misguided loyalty, conspired to end Sir Reginald's life. The locked room, the stolen sapphire, the forged letter, these were their tools of deception. But they could not outwit Hercule Poirot. His eyes sweep the room, noting each reaction. Lillian's tear-streaked face, Henry's weary nod, Clara's tight-lipped silence. Japp steps forward, his tone brisk. Marlowe's accomplice. The chandelier sabotage was Edward's desperate attempt to stop Poirot, a miscalculation that sealed his fate. Margaret, broken by guilt, confessed her role, weeping for the Ashbourne legacy she sought to protect. Lillian, her voice trembling, asks, "Why, Monsieur Poirot? Why did they hate father so?" Poirot's gaze softens. "Mademoiselle, it was not hatred, but greed and fear. Edward, as the unrecognized son, craved what he felt was his due. Madame Poole, she saw your father's will as a threat to Ebonmere's honor. Their motives, they twisted their loyalty into betrayal." Lillian nods, her tears falling freely now, not for show, but for a father she never truly reconciled with. Henry, lighting a cigarette with steadier hands, speaks up. "I suppose I'm not blameless with my debts and all, but I'd never have gone that far." Poirot nods. "Monsieur Langston, your follies are your own, but murder was not in your heart. Learn from this, no?"
Henry exhales, a wry smile crossing his face. "I'll try, Poirot. No more Mr. Black, at least." Poirot's eyes gleam, recalling Edward's alias as the creditor, a deception that nearly ensnared Henry. Dr. Clara Henshaw, packing her medical bag to leave, pauses to address Poirot. "I should have been more careful with my sedatives. I never imagined they'd be used to deceive." Poirot inclines his head. "Madame, your skill was exploited, but your conscience is clear. Go, and be vigilant in future." Clara nods, her professional pride bruised but intact, and departs for London, vowing never to return to Ebonmere. Margaret's fate weighs heavily. As Japp's constables lead her away, she clutches her rosary, her eyes haunted. "I only wanted to save Ebonmere," she murmurs. Poirot, watching her go, reflects to Hastings. Her loyalty, it was her strength and her downfall. The human heart, mon ami, it is a fragile thing. Hastings, moved, asks,
Last time, ensuring no trace of the crime lingers, then turns away, satisfied. As the household disperses, Poirot and Hastings walk the gardens, the roses now wilting under autumn's touch. Hastings, reflecting on the case, says, "It was a devilish plan, Poirot. Locked room, forged letter, planted sapphire. How did you see through it all?" Poirot taps his temple. "The little grey cells, mon ami. They see what is not said. The calluses on Madame Poole's hands, the two perfect clues pointing to Edward. Order and method. They triumph over chaos." Poirot pauses by a fountain, its water glinting in the sunlight. "This case, Hastings, it reminds us. The locked room, it is not the walls, but the heart that conceals the truth. Edward and Margaret, they locked their souls in greed and fear. But no lock withstands reason." Hastings nods, awed by Poirot's clarity. "You're a marvel, Poirot. What's next?" Poirot's eyes twinkle. "Another mystery, mon ami. The world, it is full of them." As they prepare to depart, Poirot takes a final look at Ebonmere Manor, its towers stark against the clear sky. The estate, once a prison of secrets, now breathes freely, its story resolved. Japp joins them, tipping his hat. "Good work, Poirot. Couldn't have done it without you." Poirot bows slightly. "A pleasure, Inspector. But the credit, it belongs to the truth." The motor car waits, its engine humming, as Poirot and Hastings climb in. The manor recedes into the distance, its silhouette softening as the hills reclaim it. Poirot leans back, his hands folded, a faint smile on his lips. "Order is restored, Hastings," he says, "but the little grey cells, they never rest." The car disappears into the countryside, leaving Ebonmere to its new chapter. Chapter 8. Echoes of Truth. The 6th day at Ebonmere Manor dawns with a serene stillness, the Sussex hills bathed in a soft autumn light that seems to cleanse the estate of its recent darkness. The manor, though quieter now, produces a sealed envelope, its wax bearing the Ashburn crest. Unopened since Sir Reginald entrusted it to him weeks ago. Poirot's eyes narrow, his interest piqued. "A codicil, monsieur. Why was it not revealed sooner?" Grayson, flustered, explains, "It was to be opened only upon Sir Reginald's death, and only if certain conditions were met. I was delayed by illness, but now—" He trails off, handing the envelope to Poirot. The codicil, written in Sir Reginald's precise hand, stipulates a shocking condition. If Edward Marlowe, his illegitimate son, is found guilty of any crime against the family, the estate reverts not to Lillian or Henry, but to a charitable trust for the preservation of Ebonmere's artifacts, with Dr. Clara Henshaw as executor. Mon Dieu, Poirot murmurs. A twist from beyond the grave. Hastings, stunned, exclaims, "But Edward's been arrested. Does this mean Lillian loses everything?" Poirot nods slowly. It appears so, unless there is more to uncover. The news spreads, summoning Lillian, Henry, and Clara back to the drawing room. Lillian, her face a mask of disbelief, clutches the codicil, her voice trembling. "Father would do this? Leave Ebonmere to a trust, after all I've planned?" Henry, lighting a cigarette, scoffs. Typical of Uncle Reginald, always one last trick. Clara, her spectacles glinting, remains composed, but her hands betray a slight tremor. "I had no knowledge of this," she says, her tone measured. "I'm as surprised as you." Poirot, observing their reactions, senses a new puzzle. "The codicil, it is authentic, but its timing, it is suspect. Why surface now?" Poirot's suspicions deepen when a maid reports a strange incident. A phonograph record found in the study's gramophone was playing faintly in the night, its distorted sounds like a voice crying out. Poirot, intrigued, examines the record, a rare recording of Sir Reginald reciting poetry. But amidst the verses, a faint whisper is audible. "Beware the shadow." The words, barely discernible, send a chill through Hastings. "Good Lord, Poirot, is this a mess?" Curve of the letters suggest another hand. "This codicil," Poirot declares, "it is a forgery, crafted to disrupt the estate's succession." He suspects a surviving accomplice, someone who knew of Edward and Margaret's plot and sought to exploit it. Clara, as the named executor, becomes a focal point, but her calm demeanor and lack of motive puzzle Poirot. A search of Clara's quarters yields a surprising find, a notebook detailing her research on the Ebonmere sapphire, including its chemical properties and rumored psychoactive effects. "Fascinating, madame," Poirot says, holding the notebook. "You studied the gem, yet claimed no interest in it?" Clara, unflinching, explains, "It was academic curiosity, nothing more." But Poirot notes a smudge of ink on her fingers, matching the codicil's hue. "A coincidence, perhaps?" he asks, his tone deceptively mild. Clara's silence is telling. Poirot turns to the phonograph record, analyzing it with a portable device borrowed from Grayson. The whispered phrase, "Beware the shadow," is clearer now, and Poirot recognizes it as Clara's voice, recorded over the original. "Madame Henshaw," he says, "you left this message knowing it would be found. Why?" Clara's composure cracks, her voice low. I suspected Edward's plan. I recorded it to warn Sir Reginald, but I was too late." She admits to knowing of the passage, having discovered it during her medical rounds, but denies involvement in the murder. Poirot pieces together the final twist. Clara, aware of Edward's embezzlement and Margaret's complicity, forged the codicil to protect Ebonmere from falling into Edward's hands, hoping to redirect the estate to a trust she could oversee. "You sought to control the legacy, madame," Poirot says, "not for greed, but for pride. To preserve what you believed Sir Reginald valued." Clara, tears in her eyes, nods. "I thought it was justice. I was wrong." Japp, informed of the forgery, takes Clara into custody for obstruction, though her role in the murder is negligible. "You've caused enough trouble, Doctor," he grumbles, but Poirot intervenes. "Her crime is..." "Another mystery solved, Hastings. The little grey cells, they triumph once more." The sun sets, casting a warm glow over the estate, a promise of renewal. Chapter 9. The Final Veil. The seventh day at Ebonmere Manor dawns with a deceptive calm. the autumn light filtering through the manor's mullioned windows, casting intricate patterns on the oak-panelled floors. The estate, now under Lillian Ashburn's stewardship, hums with tentative hope as plans for its transformation into a theatre take shape. Hercule Poirot, his suit as pristine as ever, lingers in the library, his fingers brushing the leather-bound tomes, as if seeking wisdom in their pages. Captain Arthur Hastings, sipping coffee, marvels at the manor's renewed energy. "It's over, Poirot," he says, a smile breaking through. "Lillian's vision will breathe life into this place." Poirot's moustache twitches, his eyes distant. "Mon ami, the surface is calm, but beneath, the currents still swirl. The little grey cells, they are not yet at rest." Their conversation is interrupted by a breathless maid, her apron clutched in trembling hands. "Monsieur Poirot, sir, there's something you must see, in the attic." Her voice quavers, and Poirot, sensing urgency, follows her, Hastings trailing close behind. They ascend a narrow staircase, the air growing musty as they reach the attic, a cavernous space cluttered with trunks, dusty portraits, and cobwebbed relics of the Ashburn family. In a far corner, partially hidden by a tarp, lies a wooden chest, its lock freshly broken. Inside, wrapped in velvet, is a small painting, a portrait of a young woman with striking resemblance to Lillian, but with eyes that carry an eerie intensity. Beside it, a bundle of letters tied with a faded ribbon bears Sir Reginald's seal. Poirot examines the letters, his gloved hands careful. The first, dated 20 years prior, is addressed to "My dearest Eleanor," revealing a hidden love affair between Sir Reginald and a woman not his wife. The final letter, "Future." A new mystery unfolds. Who broke into the chest, and why now? Poirot examines the lock, noting fresh scratches, suggesting recent tampering. "This discovery, it is no accident," he says. "Someone wished it found. But why?" He questions the household staff, but none admit to entering the attic. The maid who reported the find claims she heard creaking floorboards the previous night, hinting at an intruder. Poirot's mind races, connecting this to the case's loose ends. Suspicion falls on the remaining players. Lillian, desperate to secure her theatre, might have uncovered the chest to eliminate rival claims, though her shock seems genuine. Henry, still grappling with debts, could see a new heir as a threat to his trust fund. Grayson, with access to Sir Reginald's secrets, might have hidden the letters to protect the estate's stability, only to reveal them now for unknown reasons. Poirot also considers an outside party, perhaps a descendant of Eleanor, seeking to claim Ebonmere. A clue emerges when Poirot notices a faint perfume on the letters, a floral scent matching Lillian's favorite fragrance. Confronted, Lillian admits to exploring the attic days ago, searching for family relics for her theatre. "I found the chest but didn't open it," she insists. "I swear, I didn't know about the letters." Poirot notes her flushed cheeks, her hands twisting nervously, but her eyes hold a spark of truth. "Mademoiselle, you are not the culprit, but you are part of this puzzle," he says. Poirot's investigation leads to the manor's guest log, revealing a visitor from weeks prior, a Miss Eleanor Grayson, claiming to be a distant cousin. The solicitor, visibly shaken, admits she is his niece, raised in obscurity after her mother, Eleanor the governess, died in poverty. "She came asking about her heritage," Grayson confesses. "I told her there was no proof, but she was determined." Poirot's eyes gleam. "And this Eleanor, she knew of the chest." Grayson nods reluctantly. "I mentioned the attic, but I didn't think she'd act." Poirot deduces that Eleanor Grayson, the secret daughter, broke into the chest, hoping to find evidence of her claim. The letters, though not naming her in the theatre's management, a gesture of reconciliation. "We're sisters, in a way," Lillian says. "Ebonmere is big enough for us both." Poirot ensures the letters are preserved for historical record, not legal dispute. Grayson, chastened, vows to support Eleanor's new role. Henry, relieved, lights a cigarette, muttering, "No more surprises, I hope." Poirot smiles faintly. "The surprises, monsieur. They are life's spice." As the manor prepares for its new chapter, Poirot and Hastings walk the gardens, the roses now bare under autumn's touch. Hastings, reflecting, says, "A secret daughter, Poirot, another twist. You saw it all." Poirot taps his temple. "The little grey cells, mon ami. They see the patterns in the chaos. Eleanor's heart sought truth, not vengeance. And that is why we end in peace. The manor's future, with Lillian and Eleanor's collaboration, promises renewal. Its ghosts finally at rest. The motorcar awaits, and as Ebonmere fades into the hills, Poirot leans back, his eyes gleaming. "Another veil lifted, Hastings. The truth, it is always there, waiting for order." The sun sets, casting a warm glow over the estate, a testament to Poirot's triumph. Chapter 10. The curtain falls. The 8th day at Ebonmere Manor dawns with a radiant warmth, the October light bathing the estate in a golden hue that seems to wash away its shadowed past. The manor, now firmly in Lillian Ashburn's hands, buzzes with preparations for its transformation into a theatre, a beacon of art and life. Eleanor Grayson, revealed as Sir Reginald's secret daughter, has joined Lillian, their newfound bond promising a fresh chapter for Ebonmere. Hercule Poirot, his suit as pristine as ever, stands in the grand hall, his eyes tracing the ancestral portraits with a quiet satisfaction. Captain Arthur Hastings, sipping tea, beams with optimism. "It's done, Poirot," he says, his voice bright. "Ebonmere's ghosts are at rest, and Lillian's dream takes flight." Poirot's moustache twitches, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Mon ami, the ghost table." Lillian, her face alight with plans for the theatre, frowns at the journal. "Father's secrets never end, do they?" she says, a trace of weariness in her voice. Eleanor, clutching her mother's portrait, adds, "What more could he hide?" Henry, lighting a cigarette, shrugs. "Another riddle, Poirot? I thought we were done." Grayson, adjusting his glasses, studies the entry. It's his hand, no doubt, but it's cryptic. Perhaps a personal fear. Poirot, pacing, replies, "Non, monsieur, this is no mere fear. It is a warning, and Poirot shall heed it." The journal's cryptic entry suggests a lingering threat, possibly tied to the murder. Poirot re-examines the case's clues, suspecting a detail overlooked. The phrase, "the shadow moves unseen," echoes the phonograph's whisper from Chapter 8, hinting at a deeper conspiracy. He questions the workers who report hearing odd noises in the manor's east wing, a rarely used section sealed since Sir Reginald's youth. Poirot, intrigued, leads Hastings to the east wing, a dusty maze of locked rooms and faded tapestries. A faint scent of tobacco, Turkish, like Henry's cigarettes, lingers in the air, though Henry claims he hasn't visited the wing in years. Poirot discovers a locked door, its key missing. Forcing it open, they find a small study, untouched for decades, its desk covered in papers detailing Sir Reginald's early business dealings. Among them is a contract with a shadowy figure, J. Carver, linked to the acquisition of the Ebonmere sapphire. The contract hints at a debt unpaid, with a note in Sir Reginald's hand. Carver's threat persists. "He knows my secret." Poirot's eyes narrow. This Carver, he is the shadow, but is he still a threat? Returning to the library, Poirot questions the group about J. Carver. Grayson recalls him as a disreputable dealer Sir Reginald crossed in India, long presumed dead.
He vanished after the sapphire deal, Grayson says, but there were rumors he sought revenge. Lillian, shaken, admits, Father mentioned a man from his past, someone he feared, but he never named him. Henry, puffing smoke, adds,
Hypothesizes that Edward Marlowe, aware of Carver's grudge through Sir Reginald's confidences, used it as leverage to justify his actions. The journal's entry, written hours before the murder, suggests Sir Reginald suspected a threat, possibly from Edward's contact with Carver's network. Poirot searches Edward's quarters again, finding a hidden letter from J.C., dated weeks prior, urging Edward to secure the sapphire or face exposure. The letter's ink matches the forged codicil, linking it to Clara's interference. Poirot gathers everyone in the drawing room, the journal and letter on display. Mesdames et messieurs, he says, his voice steady, the murder of Sir Reginald was not merely greed, but a shadow from his past. J. Carver, a dealer wronged by Sir Reginald, cast a long reach. Edward Marlowe, perhaps coerced, acted on this shadow's behalf. He reveals the letter, tying Edward to Carver's influence. Clara, shamefaced, admits to forging the codicil to thwart Edward, unaware of Carver's role. I thought I was protecting Ebonmere, she says, her voice breaking. Lillian and Eleanor, united, vow to investigate Carver's fate, ensuring no further threats emerge. Henry, chastened, promises to reform, his role minor but humbling. Poirot, satisfied, declares, the shadow is dispelled, mes amis. The truth, it shines brighter than any sapphire. Inspector Japp, informed of the findings, takes the letter as evidence, though Carver's whereabouts remain unknown, likely lost to time. As the manor prepares for its theatrical rebirth, Poirot and Hastings walk the gardens, the roses now bare but promising spring's return. Hastings, reflective, says, the shadow from decades ago, Poirot. How do you see it all? Poirot smiles. The little grey cells, mon ami. They see the past in the present. Ebonmere is free, and its future is bright. The manor's towers gleam in the sunlight, a symbol of renewal. The motor car awaits, and as Ebonmere fades into the hills, Poirot leans back, his eyes serene. The curtain falls, Hastings, but the stage of life, it is never empty.